Hey, in this video you will learn how to make quality sound effects all by yourself. No prior experience required. You will go all the way from not having created a single sound in your life to actually making some really awesome sounds you can use to juice up your games.
My name is Ryan Stunkel. I'm a professional sound designer for video games, and I run a YouTube channel called Blip Sounds, where we teach sound design for video games.
My name is Jonas. I'm not a professional sound designer. I'm an indie game developer, and I usually make all of the sound effects for my games myself. Today we'll teach you how to do the same. This is the little prototype we'll be creating sounds for. Timestamps and the link to Ryan's YouTube channel Blip Sounds are of course in the video description.
Today, Jonas invited me to do some sounds for Smash Run, and I'm really excited to show you guys my approach and mindset to how I tackle sound design.
For this tutorial, we'll use Audacity. Step 1, download Audacity. The second thing you need, of course, is a recording device, a microphone. If you don't have a microphone, you can get surprisingly good USB microphones for around 20 or 30 bucks online. Or as an alternative, you can also just use your smartphone. Most modern day smartphones have surprisingly decent recording quality. Of course, if you record on your phone, it'll be a little bit of an extra hassle to get the audio recordings from your phone onto your PC, but then you can just drag and drop them into Audacity. Let's start out with a quick Audacity crash course. This is what you should see when you open the program up. If for some reason the toolbar at the top here is messed up, you can always go to View, Toolbars, and Reset Toolbars. And then you can also move these things here around. Next thing you need to do is just selecting the correct microphone here. For me, that is this one. As this is a mono microphone, I'll also just select mono. Then here you can select the output. So the speakers that we'll use to play the sounds. Make sure that all of those are set correctly, and then you can hit this red button here to make a recording. This is a test recording, blah, 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 blah. When you hit play, you should hear it. This is a test recording. You want to make sure that your microphone is recording with the correct volume. If you want to make your microphone a bit more silent, you can just drag this down a little bit here. You want to make sure that you don't record too loudly. If you record too loudly, then you'll cause clipping. If the sounds touch the bounce here, that is no good. That will sound really ugly and distorted. You can delete rows like this. Just click on X and the entire line is gone. This is the selection tool. You can use that to select certain parts of your audio track. This is the move tool, or the time shift tool is what it's called. You can use that to move the sounds around. Then this right here is the zoom tool. So left mouse button is zooming in, right mouse button is zooming out. This right here is the envelope tool. You can use that to fade the sound in or out, make it louder or a bit more silent. Dragging this outer line here, if you pull it closer to the center, it becomes more silent, and if you pull it closer outside, it becomes louder. And for example, if I want this to become louder and louder, I'll just drag it in here and drag it all the way out here. This way it will slowly grow in volume. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 blah. If you want to edit away unnecessary parts, select it with the select tool and then hit delete. You can hear at the beginning that there's a little bit of noise on the recording as well. Depending on your microphone, there will be more or less noise in your recording. Luckily, there's a way to reduce that a little bit by just going to Effects, Noise Reduction. And now you need to make sure that a silent part of your recording is selected, because then you can get the noise profile. This will teach Audacity how the noise in your recording sounds like, and then you can select everything, go to noise reduction and hit OK. That should get rid of most of the noise in your recording. So now what if we want to cut the file here? In that case, we can just go to edit, clip boundaries and split. That will create a split here, which will allow us to move these individually, which we couldn't do before. By the way, a different way to change the volume of the recording is here, and you can also pan it to the left, 1, 2, 3, or to the right, 1, 2, 3. If you want to create a new track so you can play multiple things at once, you can go to tracks, add new mono track, and then you have 2 tracks in here. Now we can record something on top of that. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 blah. When you want to export your sound, you can go to File, Export, Export as WAV. That's usually what I go for. If you just want to export a little selection of your sound, you can just select the area you want to export, and then you can go to File, Export, Export Selected Audio. Then you can still select the file type here. Just click OK a couple of times, and then you should 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 blah. The exported sound file right here. That's pretty much how you use Audacity. Now there are 3 more techniques that we'll use to create our final sound effects: layering, equalizing, and pitch shifting. First of all, layering is pretty much what we did before, where we just record multiple sounds on top of each other. So now I'll take all of these sounds, put them all on top of each other. When you pick the zoom tool and select an area like this, it will zoom exactly to that area. Add a couple of new tracks, and I guess another quick way to get these into a different track is just to hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V. And you can see that just by putting all of these sounds on top of each other, they already sound a lot different. So basically layering is combining multiple sounds into one by just putting them on top of each other. So now if I only want to work with that one up here, I can just mute the other ones. For that you can just hit that mute button here. Second technique, second effect that is also very, very powerful and extremely useful is pitch shifting. The way you do pitch shifting in Audacity is you select the sound you want to pitch shift, then you click on effects, and then you click on change speed. You can use change pitch as well, but usually change speed gives nicer results. And then here you can pitch shift your sound up or down. If we click preview, you should be able to hear how your sound sounds like. So now if you reduce the speed of that to half, to 0.5, the sound suddenly sounds a lot deeper. Of course it gets slower as well, but the main side effect that we want is that it makes the sound deeper. And as you can see, that can have some really cool effects where a simple clap sound can almost turn into an explosion just by us slowing it down a little bit. Or alternatively, if we pitch it up, it turns into a click sound. So you can see that this is an extremely powerful technique. If you want to apply that effect, then instead of preview, we'll just click on OK, and that will apply the effect. This BAM! Let's pitch shift that as well. Don't worry, this is for educational purposes only. The last technique we'll need is equalizing. Yeah, this might be interesting. If you want to equalize this, you select it, you go to effects, and then you go to filter curve. On the left are the low frequencies, so the deep sounds, and then here on the left are the high sounds, the high frequencies. So what happens if we, for example, move this all the way down here, so the curve is on the very bottom on the left, then we basically what we do is we remove all of the low frequencies, and then if we hit preview, you can pretty much hear that only the high frequencies are left. We do it the other way around. Only the low frequencies are left. Just by adjusting this curve, we can make the sound very, very different. You can just play around with this curve and see how it changes your sound. And then once you found something you're happy with, you hit OK. X-axis is the frequency, and of course Y-axis is how loud it is. So if you make it too loud, it will once again become too loud and create some ugly artifacts. You can hear that crackling there. That is because I just made it too loud. So I need to move everything down a little bit. Okay, let's make the first sound. The walking sound, the running sound. So somebody walking over sand. My process for making a sound effect is usually trying to imagine how I want the sound effect to sound like. What I'm imagining is just shoes on sand, very small, tiny steps. Once you have the sound in your head, you can try to think, what in my house sounds like that? Want to make a sound of a shoe? Then why not start with a shoe? And then I found something that sounds very similar to sand, actually. I'm not 100% sure if it will work, but that's what I'm gonna try. Okay, let's use those at the very beginning here. Those are my favorites. I'll start separating my sounds here by duplicating them in here. And the reason why I'm trying to get multiple, because the stepping sounds are so extremely short. If it's just the exact same stepping sound repeated all of the time, you'll hear that it's the same sound. That is why I'll create multiple ones, and then in the game I'll make sure that a random sound is picked every time a stepping sound is played, and that will make it sound a lot better. That should be enough. Yeah, and then you can hear a little bit of a plopping sound whenever one of these sound effects ends. And the way to get rid of that is fading that out at the end here. But another way to do it is to go to effects and then just hit fade out. And that will make it disappear as well. Just select that little end section here, effects, fade out. Okay, perhaps some of the sounds need a little bit of a fade in as well. You can see here with sound effects where the audio wave doesn't start at 0, those are the ones that create a little bit of a clicking sound. So what you can do is just removing the beginning part so the audio wave starts at exactly at 0, and that will get rid of the clicking. It actually sounds a lot more like sand if I slow the sound down a bit. What happens if I speed it up? I think I mainly want the heights of this to come through. Yeah, I'll go with that. Okay, so now I have a bunch of sounds. Once again, checking that they have about the correct volume here. They should be around -6, a little more, a little less. One of the most important skills in sound design is creativity. Just work with what you have.
Most of this is going to be pretty improvised. I don't really have much of a game plan other than the recordings I've done. If I want to make a punch sound effect, I'm just going to go around my house and start hitting things and going to find what works. And that's actually how I figured out how to do that balloon trick where I was punching it with my hand. I'm dangling it here so it gets more reverberation. The microphone that I use for this is a Zoom H6 microphone with a shotgun microphone attachment. It's my favorite microphone. I've been using it for 6 years now. This is called Reaper. Reaper is very similar to Audacity. However, Reaper is just a little bit more dynamic. I can move audio files around, and I can also add effects directly to the track. So for example, if I type an EQ within our effects here, I can go to re-EQ, and then I can simply add a change to our equalizer, let's say cutting out the lower frequencies.
Don't worry, I've already shown you how to do this exact same thing in Audacity. I just thought because I'm a nice person, I'll let Ryan use his own software of choice. And Reaper is a good choice, of course. The only reason why I decided to go for Audacity with this tutorial is ease of use, speed, and because Audacity is completely free.
Yeah, let's make this like 20 seconds long. Just keep it pretty short. And we're going to make a looping ambience out of this. I'm going to cut this in half, and then I'm going to move the first part of this audio file right after the second one. And this is going to create a crossfade between these two files when I merge them together like this. And this crossfade is going to create a seamless gap between these two sounds.
The way you do that in Audacity is you select the first part, hit Control X, and then you can just add it back in here. Make sure they overlap a little bit, and then you can just manually crossfade them. So no problemo. Make sure the volume stays somewhat consistent during the transition. And now we have a loopable sound here as well.
You can't even tell that there is a gap, but if I were to play them separately like this, it's a little bit more noticeable. And now let's go on to the collecting diamond sound. I want to work on that. So I'm going to create a new track, and I'm going to take our wine glass sound here. A lot of my process for sound design is just recording as much as possible and then basically finding my favorite recordings and sticking those together. So along with our wine glass, we also want to take our yo-yo sound, which is right here. Yeah, I definitely want to use this bit here. And we're going to kind of have it like tail off after the initial hit of the wine glass. Fades are really easy to add in Reaper. You just have to click the top right and drag to the right. I'm going to do this on both of these. I'm also going to pitch shift these. And to pitch shift in Reaper, all you have to do is hit Shift and 0. So I'm going to do a cool trick here. I'm going to take this, I forgot to mention this in the recording section, but I recorded this sound of me going into the microphone. So this is what we call white noise in the sound design world. And white noise is very useful because it is all of the frequencies combined. And it makes it feel a little bit more full. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this wine glass sound and I am going to reverse it by hitting Control R.
This is how to reverse a sound in Audacity. You click on Effects, Reverse.
And now we have a lovely reversed wine glass sound. I'm also going to raise the pitch of this wine glass sound. And this is going to be a pretty fast sound when it happens, so I'm going to make sure that it kind of happens right around here. And I want this to be punchy too, so I'm going to take our white noise here and I'm going to add some EQ, and I'm going to boost the lows. And let's lower the higher frequencies a little bit. Just having too many higher frequencies can be a little bit jarring. I do like to use other tools other than EQ, but I do find that EQ is such a versatile tool that can be used. I think I accidentally dropped the microphone stand and it made that sound, and I listened to that back for my pre-production, and you know what? We're going to try using it. Just because why not? I'm going to add a pitch shifter to this.
In Audacity, select everything, Effects, Sliding Stretch. And this way you can select the pitch at the beginning of the sound and at the end of the sound, so I can give it a little sweep. Yeah, that is pretty much what he's doing to the wine glass sound.
Actually, yeah, that works pretty well. So I'm going to copy this pitch shifter sound onto it again. We're going to use an even higher frequency than before. Actually, yeah, I like that a lot. Having a pitch go up and sound like this is a very nice rewarding sound effect, so using automation in this way can be really helpful for making positive or negative feedback sounds. If I wanted to make this a bad sound, I'd probably lower it in pitch.
So now that you're starting to get the idea, let's speed this up a little bit. I don't want this tutorial to get too long. Next sound I want to create is the shotgun sound, and I'll start out with a couple of claps. Next up, I imagine that a shotgun has a little bit of crunch to it as well. So here I'm just giving it a little more in the high frequencies and also leaving a bit more in the low frequencies, because that gives it a bit more punch. Actually add another clap on top. Sometimes your experiments don't work out and then you just remove them and try something else instead. So once again, pitch shifting and equalizing was all that was needed to create that sound. I think it turned out quite nicely.
I'm going to call this white noise from now on because it basically is just white noise. This actually works as a nice base for our bullet hitting wall sound. And honestly, it might not need to be anything more than that. It might just need to be that simple. Now let's do our falling off the screen sound and our losing getting stuck sound. This one's going to be a little tough because it's so just like there's no animation to it and it happens so fast too, but you still want a negative feedback sound for it. Let's do our pitch shifter trick. That sounds pretty cool actually. It sounds like a drum. I think we're going to use the same trick that we had before with our white noise. Let's add EQ, and let's cut off the higher frequencies a little bit. Maybe it should go up in pitch, actually. Like, hey, you got a second chance. Like, here's an extra life. Just for the sake of making it a little bit more interesting, I'm going to duplicate this track twice, and I'm going to stretch these out just a tiny bit over each other, and I'm going to raise the volume of each succeeding one. Nice! That sounds really cool. Nice. Yeah, let's try adding one of these sounds in. That's kind of funny. Oh, I really like that.
Okay, next sound is for when the player is trying to shoot, but is out of ammunition, so a sound. And I found these because I was looking for something that sounds metallic and small. Yeah, something like that. Enough.
Again, my name is Ryan Stunkel, and we have a YouTube channel called Blip Sounds. I highly recommend going to check it out. We have a really awesome video showing how we make monster sounds with our voice, and also how to make fighting sounds, and then we go have a new video going over underwater sounds, putting out a new video every single week.
This was only an introduction into sound design. There were a lot of things that we didn't cover yet, so if you want to get to the next level, go check them out, because sound design can be an excellent way into the games industry. Every game needs sounds, and sounds have an absolutely massive impact on how games feel. So sound design is important as hell. Every game development team needs sounds. Hope you had a good time watching this video. Hope you got a lot out of it and have a rough idea of how to create sound effects now. And see you in the next one. Bye.